That's great. Philanthropy can take many forms, and we will see two varieties of cultural philanthropy in our next two presentations. Astrid Welter is the project director of Fondazione Prada, the nonprofit art arm of Prada. She's overseeing the creation and the curatorial content of a new museum in Milan designed by Rem Koolhaas. This is one of the first contemporary art museums in Milan, and I think will have the ability to transform the landscape of Milan and potentially affect its economy as a tourist destination. Very few people have seen these plans, so we're getting a special kind of peek into the new Fondazione. Astrid?
So thank you, Deborah, for this presentation and for having us present to this audience, our project, which will open next year. But I want to start my considerations by taking up a remark of Stephen Dunbar-Johnson yesterday, when he talked about the fact that the sustain which luxury industry provides to cultural discourse is now on a scale which has been unpredictable until some years ago. And I think this is very true and applies very much also to the Fondazione Prada, which has been instituted 21 years ago in 1993 by Miuccia Prada and Patrizio Bertelli, who are our presidents. The Fondazione Prada was set up as a kind of experiment and as a learning process. Mrs. Prada and Mr. Bertelli were just personally interested in culture and also in other fields like theater, dance, and cinema, and in fine arts. They were friends with a group of Italian artists, and when Prada moved new headquarters in Milan in the early 90s to a warehouse space, these artists suggested that this space would actually be great to show big-scale installation art. And this is what we started to do in 1993 by setting up annually a show devoted to sculpture or big-scale installation, as I was saying, that were Eliseo Mattiacci, David Smith, and Anish Kapoor in those first years. What happened in these 21 years is that by pursuing very seriously the aim to sustain contemporary artists by making exhibition projects with them, now we'll give life to our next phase, the phase number 2, as Mrs. Prada normally says, which is our new permanent headquarters in Milan, designed by Rem Koolhaas. This is in the south of Milan, and it's an industrial compound from the early 20th century, which was formerly a distillery. And it consists of a number of buildings beginning from 1910 onwards, and which has been used as a distillery for 60 years and was then slowly degrading to used as warehouse spaces for some more decades, till it was taken up by Prada. And this is an overview of the existing buildings with some renderings now. Here's the overview of the Rem Koolhaas project for the Fondazione Prada. He will transform this compound into exhibition spaces by integrating the existing buildings with three new buildings, which you see here inserted into the existing spaces. The total area of this compound is 200,000 square feet, and the exhibition area will be 100,000 square feet divided between 75,000 square feet in the existing buildings and 45,000 square feet in the three new buildings. This is another view on the total area. So the new buildings are the first one is called Podium, and it's a 2-floor building clad in aluminum foam. The ground floor is fully glazed, a square, and on top of it is a beam. This is the foyer entrance. Sorry, these are not in the right order. This is a building with a very sophisticated technological equipment which will allow us to fulfill also standards of museums which ask for very high technological climate control and security control, and it will enable Fondazione Prada in the future also to secure loans for temporary exhibitions which will involve antique art. The next new building is, this is again the podium. The second new building is called Cinema. It's an auditorium which will have a proper viewing room for films, but it will also be used for other purposes such as performance, theater, or symposia. It's an auditorium. Beneath you see a basement which will host a permanent art project by Thomas Demand. And this auditorium building has the possibility to be open to the adjacent courtyard totally by bifolding doors, so that we can also use it as a stage for open-air performances in the summer months. And the third new building is the tower. It's a 9-story building, and that will face towards the city of Milan with fully glazed windows. And all the gallery, these will provide gallery spaces to host in the future some parts of the collection of Prada. These are interiors of this Torre building, which will oversee the city and also become a kind of landmark. The existing spaces, which are 7 different buildings which were formerly dedicated to brewery, to storage facilities and laboratories, will be preserved and structurally reinforced. This is one of the big rooms, and you see these big beams which we had to insert in all the buildings due to the anti-seismic and structural regulations in Milan. And as opposed to the new buildings, these will be entirely preserved in their original shape, and also, like in this case, for instance, with the original floors, which distinguishes these spaces. And they comprehend one big deposit, like a 2-nave exhibition gallery, several smaller galleries, one building called Biblioteca, which will host a multimedia reading room and a children area and a bar, and one which is called the Haunted House, which was the Golden House, which you saw before in the prior renderings. This intervention will represent a very important transformation of the cultural landscape for the city of Milan, as well as being a very relevant example for regeneration of a peripheral area in Milan, which is, of course, an issue which we have in common with other cities with the former big industrial spaces which are now abandoned. For Milan, it will constitute something like what Deborah talked about, like becoming the first museum for contemporary art, and we are refraining from calling this initiative a museum, but it will actually perform as a museum. The city of Milan had various building projects to build a publicly owned museum, but they all failed, including one project by Daniel Liebeskind. So what's happening in Milan, which is on the other hand the city of design and fashion and architecture, is that we have no public space, or we have no space dedicated for contemporary art in public hands, and instead private initiatives, and it's often linked to the theme of this conference, also to luxury industry, so step into this gap, and this is the case of the Fondazione Trussardi, who doesn't have an own space, but they use in a nomadic way various existing spaces in the city. The Pirelli Foundation, who have instituted the Hangar Bicocca, which is a very big exhibition space in the north of Milan, and to this, the Fondazione Prada will be, of course, an important addition due to the scale of the compound which we will use. So what will we do in Milan? And I want to explain you what the activity of the Fondazione Prada was in the past 20 years too, which is a forecast of what we want to do with these spaces in Milan. Oh no, I forgot. We have, of course, in the meantime, two other exhibition venues which we will keep. One is Ca' Corner della Regina, which is our exhibition venue in Venice on the Grand Canal. Fondazione Prada took over this building in 2010 from the city of Venice with the obligation to transform it in a public exhibition space and to restore the building, because the city of Venice did not have means to face that. And this is very true for a number of important cultural heritage buildings in Italy in general, which of course is suffering severely the economic crisis and the not enough public fundings for such kind of undertakings. So Fondazione Prada has renovated and is going on to renovate this Baroque palace, which is beautiful, and which has been opened to the public in 2011. And we are still renovating in the winter months when we do not host exhibitions there, the frescoes and the stuccos and other parts of the building, as well as building in a very innovative system of climate control, which allowed us to stage in Venice a number of exhibitions in collaboration with international museums who gave loans towards our exhibitions. Alongside with Venice and the headquarters of Milan in 2016, Fondazione Prada will also occupy 2 stores in the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele, which is right in the city center. This historical gallery shopping mall in the center of Milan has recently been made available by the municipality, and a number of initiatives are going on. Prada took over one whole portion of this galleria on a rental basis with the obligation to restore it, and the Fondazione Prada will use 2 floors in this building for cultural activities starting in 2016. So we need a good program to fill all these venues, and we think we have a long experience to try to envision also a program for the future. I said before when Fondazione Prada started at the beginning with a commitment to contemporary art and artists. In the first 15 years of activity, based only in Milan, Fondazione Prada staged annually first and then biannually exhibitions of internationally renowned artists. We often invited artists who had never had until then a solo exhibition in Italy. And in most of the cases, we encouraged artists to develop new work, or we took over the idea which artists presented to us for new work to be produced for the exhibitions. And these, the history of these exhibitions is quite long, and I just make a quick walk through to the most significant ones. This was Anish Kapoor in 1995. This was Michael Heitzer in the following year, Louise Bourgeois. Then a very exceptional project, which is Dan Flavin's last artwork conceived for a church in Milan. And this was a project which Fondazione Prada did in 1997 in collaboration with the Dia Center for the Arts in New York. And Fondazione Prada donated this installation to the church, which is called Chiesa Rossa. It's in Milan, and it's permanently open to the public. It belongs to the church. Then we did Walter de Maria, Mark Quinn, Karsten Höller, Francesco Vezzoli, who spoke here before in 2004 with a TV production, Steve McQueen, Tom Sachs, and John Baldessari in 2010. These solo exhibitions were then followed from 2011 on, when we started to use the exhibition venue in Venice with research exhibitions. And these were, in 2012, the Small Utopia, an exhibition about the multiple from 1900 to 1975. In the following year, last year, we did the reenactment of When Attitude Becomes Form, the legendary exhibition of Harald Seemann in the Kunsthalle Bern in 1969. And this year, we featured in Venice Art or Sound, an exhibition which explores the ambiguity of the musical instrument versus the sound object from Renaissance till today. And alongside with the exhibition projects, Fondazione Prada had already taken up, and this dates back to 15 years ago, a collaboration in the field of cinema. We did in 2003-2004 a collaboration with the Tribeca Film Festival, bringing ultimately in 2004 a selection of Tribeca film to Milan which was hosted in cinemas throughout the city. In the same year, we started a collaboration with the Venice Film Festival called The Secret History of Cinema, which was a restoration of Italian and Russian and Chinese cinema, which were then hosted in Milan in cinemas with symposia in our foundation. We did philosophical seminars with philosopher Massimo Cacciari between 2003 and 2006, sustaining his chair for aesthetics in a private university in Milan. And we did a number... Yeah, that was Tom Sachs came. Yeah, sure. Tom Sachs came for Art and Terror. And then we did some really special projects, not in Milan, but internationally. This was the Double Club in London. Karsten Höller wanted to open a temporary nightclub in London which combined Congolese and Western culture. And so we did it, and I opened with him for 9 months a not-for-profit nightclub which provided an insight in Congolese as opposed to Western culture in terms of drinks and music and food. This was the Prada Transformer of OMA in Seoul in 2009. And finally, the 24 Hours Museum of Francesco Vezzoli in the Palais d'Iéna in Paris in 2012, which literally lasted 24 hours. So this is an overview of what we have been doing and what we are setting up. We are going to amplify, of course, all these activities in our headquarters in Milan. We think it's a very important addition to the landscape of the city. And what is more important, I think one could look at this example and turn around the question which was raised for this conference, the benefit of which luxury industry can get from sustaining art, as opposed to the benefit that art can get from the economic sustain of industry. And this, of course, is a longer story which dates right back into the Renaissance in terms of the economic power of princes and the church enabling artists to do new work. And it is also true for a number of now well-known institutions which were founded based on the economic possibilities of successful industries. And this leads me to the very nice story of the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, where 125 years ago, Thomas Barlow Walker, lumber industry, built a room onto his house, mounted his favorite paintings on the walls, and then opened his door to everyone who wanted to come in. And that was the beginning of the Walker Art Center. So I want to conclude by saying that we have to open, of course, more than one door next year in Milan, but you're all very welcome to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid.
We have done.
Thank you so much. According to the woman